Welcome to this short lecture on introduction to hydraulic pumps. So, when we consider hydraulic pumps in general, it is used to convert mechanical energy into hydraulic energy that can be performed or that can be used to perform some useful work. So, basically, there are two types of pumps. One is hydrodynamic pumps and another one is hydrostatic pumps. So basically hydrostatic pumps, they are used for converting mechanical energy or the mechanical energy which is being generated by the hydraulic cylinders is used to perform some desirable action. So if you want to visualize conversion of mechanical energy into hydraulic energy, which is the basic function of pump, then what we can do is we can see the input and output of the pump. So basically if you see any pump, the basic the pump will be driven by some motor or IC engine or even turbines. So when we consider a simple centrifugal pump which is used in our house or even in the agricultural industry, then that pump will be driven by electrical motor which is considered as a prime mover. So basically mechanical energy is used to drive the pump. So that is why if we consider the inlet of the pump, then it is a mechanical energy in forms of a prime mover. So if we consider electrical motor, then input of electrical motor is electricity and its output will be a rotating shaft. So on that rotating shaft, the rotating element will be placed, and using those elements the pumping action will be created, and thus the rotation of output shaft of electrical motor will be converted into hydraulic energy. And that is why function of hydraulic pump is considered as conversion of mechanical energy into hydraulic energy. So if you see this animation, it is a hand pump, basically a reciprocating pump. So if you see its inlet or input to this pump is nothing but movement of that lever, which can be done by hand movements, and because of hand movements of that lever, the piston will reciprocate inside the cylinder, and because of reciprocation of piston inside the cylinder, vacuum will be created, and because of vacuum and the pressure difference, the fluid will be sucked or it will be pumped and it will be delivered to the outlet of this reciprocating pump. So basically reciprocating pump is considered as positive displacement pump because a positive amount or we can say a confined amount of volume will be used or it will be created and it will be diminished while creating the flow of hydraulic fluid, and that is why it is considered as positive displacement pump. Now let us move on to classification of pumps. As I already said, there are two main types. One is positive displacement and another one is non-positive displacement, or it is called as a rotodynamic. The meaning of positive displacement is that when pump deliver fixed amount of, or we can say constant amount of liquid per unit time, then it is called as positive displacement pump, and there are no chances of leakage of oil or liquid from higher pressure area to lower pressure area because of load acting on the pump or restriction to the flow. On the other hand, non-positive displacement pumps, they are considered as non-positive because they deliver they do deliver amount of liquid per unit time, but it is not necessary that the displacement of pump is same for per cycle. So it depends on how much amount of rotations the element is rotating and it is completely depends on the centrifugal force. So basically positive displacement pumps, they are divided into further two types. One is rotary and another one is reciprocating. So the elements which are used to create the pumping action, if they are rotating, then the pumps are classified as rotary pumps, and if it is reciprocating, then it is called as reciprocating pumps. So rotary pumps further divided into three parts based on the rotating elements. First is gear, second is vane, and third is screw. So okay, gear pumps, they are divided as external gear pump, that is the meshing of two gears. If it is externally meshed, then it is called as external gear pump. If they are internally meshed, then it is called as internal gear pump. And last type is G-rotor pump. Whereas vane pumps, they are classified according to their displacement. They have fixed displacement and variable displacement that can be achieved by using unbalanced vane pump and balanced vane pump. Then we have screw pumps. Basically, screw pumps are used when you have to monitor the flow through the axis of the pump, and you have to convey the liquid from one side to another side. Like basically for transportation purpose, screw pumps are used. Basically, which is the primary function of the non-positive displacement pumps. Then reciprocating pumps are divided as axial piston and radial piston. So basically these pistons which reciprocates to pump the liquid, they are mounted axially. If they are mounted axially, then they are called as axial piston pumps. If pistons are mounted radially, in radial direction, then they are called as radial piston pumps. Then axial piston pumps are further classified as inline and bent axis pumps, and inline further they are classified as variable plate, swash plate, inclined one, even cam and camshaft driven piston pumps, and so on. And radial piston pumps, they are classified as stationary cylinder block and rotatory cylinder block. Now we will try to understand the in detail working of only gear types of pump in this lecture. So positive displacement pumps, as I already said, they deliver fixed amount of liquid per cycle of rotation of shaft, and that is why they are called as positive displacement pump. They are usually high pressure and low volume pumps used for hydraulic systems to sustain against some load which creates the pressure inside the system. So pump never creates the pressure, it creates only the flow. Restriction to flow creates the pressure. So when the fluid flow enters and leaves this with same velocity, there is no change in the kinetic energy, thus the pressure is generated because of load acting on the system. Now let us see the characteristics of positive displacement pump. Positive displacement pump, they can operate at very high pressures up to 800 bar. They can achieve the volumetric efficiency up to 98%. Now the meaning of volumetric efficiency is that how much amount of liquid which is being delivered to the outlet with respect to how much amount of liquid which was supplied at the inlet. So if there are some leakages in the liquid which is being delivered at outlet, then it will hamper the volumetric efficiency. So they are very highly efficient, and they are almost constant throughout. They operate almost constant throughout the desired pressure range. They are very compact, and they have very high power to weight ratio. So they have very high power with respect to as compared to their weight. If their weight is very less, however their power delivering capacity is very high because they are positive displacement pumps. They can obtain smooth and precise controlled motion since they are delivering constant amount of liquid or fluid per unit time or per cycle of rotation of shaft, irrespective of the load acting on the system. With proper application and control, they can produce only the amount of flow required to move the load at the desirable velocity, which is being acted on the hydraulic cylinder. They have a great flexibility of the performance. They can be made operate over a wide range of pressures and speed. Now on the other hand, non-positive displacement pumps, basically centrifugal pumps, delivers discharge using inertia of the fluid in the fluid motion. They do not develop high pressure, but they can move large amount of volume of fluid at low pressures. So basically non-positive displacement pumps are used to convey liquid from one place to another place, or wherever there is a requirement of high amount of volume of flow rate, then this non-positive displacement pumps are used. So these types of pumps are primarily used for, as I already said, transportation of fluids as water, petroleum from one local location to another location. The main thing that the non-positive displacement pumps say that the displacement between inlet and outlet is not positive, and that is why they are called as non-positive displacement pumps. The meaning is the amount of flow which is being delivered at inlet and amount of flow which is delivered at outlet it is not same. That is why the displacement, it is said that displacement between inlet and outlet is not positive, that is why they are called as non-positive displacement pump. But as far as positive displacement pumps are considered, then the displacement at inlet and outlet is same, thus there are no leakages, and thus they act as a positive displacement pumps, and thus suitable for hydraulic systems. So it depends on speed at which, so the displacement at inlet and outlet for non-positive displacement pump is completely depends on speed at which the pump is operated and the resistance which is given to the discharge side or outlet side. So as you go on increasing resistance to the outlet of the centrifugal pump or non-positive displacement pump, then liquid will leak from high pressure side to low pressure side, because there is a there is much amount of space available between this rotating part and this stationary part. If you observe the casing of this pump and this rotating part, then you can observe that there is space available between rotating part and the stationary part, and that creates the leakage of the liquid from higher pressure area to lower pressure area. So in other words, if we can say, it follows the path of least resistance. That is why liquid slips back or leak back from high pressure area to low pressure area if we build more resistance to the outlet of non-positive displacement pump. And a time arises when that rotation of rotating element stops, and thus the pumping action stops. So this is the main reason why they are not used in hydraulic systems. So when as I already said, when the resistance gets to a certain value, no flow gets delivered to the system, and the volumetric efficiency of pump drops to 0. Obviously, pump, when the rotating element stops rotating, it will stop the pumping action and volumetric efficiency becomes 0. So characteristics of non-positive displacement, they have very few moving parts. Their initial and maintenance cost is very less. They are smooth. They will deliver smooth continuous flow, as they are mean for delivering high amount of flow. They are suitable for handling almost all types of fluids, including slurries, slages, and even impurities and so on. Their operation is simple and reliable. They are not self-priming, and thus the priming is required to on the pump, because what happens is the as we already know that to start the pumping action we need to create the vacuum, and vacuum is nothing but there is nothing is present, even the air is not present, is considered as the vacuum. Now to create the vacuum in such centrifugal pump, the air which is present between the rotating part and this casing, the space available between rotating part and spacing, the air which is present here in the space which is available at rotating part and casing will not be taken out, because the air will be taken out only it is present near to the rotating part. So the air which is available here near to the rotating part will be taken out, but air which is present between the space of rotating part and casing, it will not be removed, because the rotating part has not reached at that point. So what we need to do is we need to do the priming. Priming is nothing but we have to add the liquid from outlet of this pump externally, that will create that will make this complete pump filled with the liquid. And once this gap filled with the liquid, the gap which is available between rotating and casing, once it is filled with the liquid, automatically pumping action starts. So that is why they are not self-priming, whereas positive displacement pumps are considered as self-priming pumps. Then next characteristics is discharge is a function of output resistance. So obviously discharge is completely depends on how much resistance is offered at outlet, and it has low volumetric efficiency, because much amount of space available between rotating and stationary part, that will make the leakage of liquid from higher pressure area to lower pressure area, and thus it causes volumetric efficiency as less, or it causes less volumetric efficiency. Now if we compare the positive and non-positive displacement pump, the flow rate does not change with the head for positive displacement pumps. On the other hand, for non-positive displacement pump, the flow rate decreases with the head. The flow rate is not much affected by viscosity of fluid in positive displacement pump, whereas it is the flow rate decreases with the viscosity for non-positive displacement pump. For positive displacement pump, efficiency is almost constant with head because there are no leakages, whereas efficiency increases with the head first and then it decreases as the leakage keeps on increasing. Let me teach you external gear pump in detail. Now let us try to understand various parts of this external gear pump first. Okay, so you can see there are two gears which are externally meshed. So since two gears are externally meshed, they are called as external gear pump. Now as we know that this one gear is driver and another gear is driven gear. So this driver gear is placed on a rotating shaft. That rotating shaft is considered as output of electrical motor. Suppose we will assume that this pump, external gear pump, is driven by electrical motor. So electrical motor, input of electrical motor will be electricity and its output will be a rotating shaft. So on rotating shaft of electrical motor, this gear will be placed. So this gear we will label this as a driver gear. Because of rotation of this driver gear in clockwise direction, there will be rotation of this driven gear. So now after that, so we have we know that there are the two rotating elements. There are two gears which are externally meshed. One is driven by electrical motor and another one is driven by the driver gear. Then these two gears and this complete assembly is kept in a casing. You can see this casing. So this is the complete casing, and now if you observe the space between the teeth of gears and the casing, the space there is no space available between the teeth of gear and the casing. So it is clear that for all kind of positive displacement pump, there is no space available between rotating part and the casing. So, and that has been proved here, because if you see the addendum of this gear teeth and the casing, they are completely cut. They have touched. Okay, so that shows that there is no space available between the rotating elements and the casing. Now this is very important because the air which is available in this pockets, now let us call this space as pockets, because space available between two teeth and the casing is called as packets. So this packets will have some air trapped between them, even from this side. So when I start electrical motor, the shaft will start rotating. Because of rotation of shaft, this gear will start rotating. So what will happen? Air which is available in this packets and even this packets will be removed. So as soon as the air is removed from this packets, from this side and from this side, what happens? Vacuum will be created. Once the partial vacuum is created, pump will start pumping the fluid, and the fluid will be trapped in these packets from this side and from this side. And how many number of packets it is being trapped per cycle, that much amount of liquid will be delivered to the outlet. So that shows that positive displacement pump delivers constant or fixed amount of liquid per cycle of or per rotation of shaft, or per unit time, we can say. So it is already written over here that force generated on shaft from the outlet pressure, and you may ask the question that the liquid which is being delivered over here may leak back from this side. But if you see the gap between two teeth, like teeth of this gear and this gear, it is very less. So very less amount of liquid will leak back from this space. Otherwise, almost 98% liquid will be delivered to the outlet itself. But if you see in the case of centrifugal pump, this is not the case. Okay. Then as I already said, when the motor is started, because of rotation of shaft, the partial vacuum will be created, the air will be removed. So oil will be carried around the spaces between housing and teeth. So this is the casing, and teeth. So as already said, these are the packets. So the oil will be carried through these packets and it will be delivered to the outlet. So the partial vacuum will be generated as the teeth unmeshed and oil will be entered from the reservoirs. So this was all about the working of external gear pump. So two spur gears or helical gears, they are in mesh with each other. External, they are called as external gear pump. One is driver, which is driven by prime mover, and another one is driven, which is driven by the driver gear. So oil is trapped in the pockets between teeth and the casing, and then it is carried towards the outlet port. You can see this animation over here. So these bubbles, we can say, they are trapped in these packets, and they will be delivered to the outlet from both the sides, from this side also and this side also. And if you see, there are no leakages. Leakage is almost zero, because you can't see any bubble which is coming, from higher pressure area to lower pressure area. One point I forgot to tell you, that this inlet line will be considered, or this area will be considered as lower pressure area, and this outlet area will be considered as higher pressure area. Okay, so even you can see here the profile of gear tip is different, and if you see here, it is different. So it depends on the types of external gear pump. That depends on which profile of gear tips they are used for creating the pump. So characteristics of the gear pump are, they are very less expensive. They last for longer life with the high efficiency. It is limited to pressure below 140 bar. So when outlet flow is restricted or it is resisted, then the pressure in the pump outlet chamber builds up rapidly, and that forces the gear diagonally upward against the pump inlet, and that, so this shows that the resistance to the flow creates the pressure, not just pump. So when the system pressure increases, the imbalance occurs, and to avoid this imbalance, we need some pressure relief valve, because this imbalance increases mechanical friction, and that may harm the bearing of the two gears. As the gear creates more noise, the gear pumps are noisy. They operate in noisy. They are very noisy than the vane and piston pumps. Advantage is they are self-priming, because there is no need of addition of liquid from outlet, because how much ever air which is present in these packets will be removed once we start the electrical motor. There is no need of addition of liquid from the outlets. That is why they are considered as self-priming. They deliver constant delivery for given speed. They are very compact and light in weight, and even their cost is also less. Disadvantage is that the liquid will be pumped by this pump must be clean. Otherwise, if impurities are present, that will harm the profile of gear, and that will make the leakages, and that will damage pump. Then variable speed drives are required to change the delivery, because if the electrical motor is variable speed electrical motor, then it is possible to change the delivery of pumps. If it is not a variable speed electrical motor, then the constant speed will be supplied to the rotation of gear, and based on that the delivery liquid can be delivered. There is no chance that you can change the delivery of liquid, or even the flow rate of liquid. Then if they run dry, then the parts can be damaged, because of fluid to be pumped is used as a lubricant. So we can't make the dry run of gear pumps. This is the main point. Now next is internal gear pump. Now difference between external and internal gear pump is that the two gears, they are meshed, or they are in contact internally. That is why they are called as internal gear pump. So you can see over here, this outer gear is considered as a gear with external teeth, internal teeth, because the teeth are cut internally for the external gear. And if you see the internal gear, the teeth are externally cut. So it is a combination of two gears with internally cut teeth and externally cut teeth. Along with that, they have eccentricity. That is why we need a crescent seal. This crescent seal is used to bridge the gap between the addendum of internal gear and addendum of external gear. But so if this crescent seal is not present, Then there is a gap between addendum of internal gear and addendum of external gear, and this gap will make this pump as non-positive displacement pump, and thus liquid from higher pressure area to lower will leak back to lower pressure area if the load increases or if pressure increases. So to avoid this, the crescent seal is used. So if you see here, at this point there is very small space available between addendum of internal gear and addendum of external gear, even here also. But from this point to this point, the huge space is available between addendum of internal gear and addendum of external gear, and that is why this crescent seal is connected between this or it is placed in this space, so that the space available between these two will be eliminated. So that is why this is called as crescent seal. So this is act as a seal because it is used to prevent leakage of high pressure liquid to the low pressure from area of high pressure liquid to the area of low pressure liquid. So as I just now said, crescent seals, it seals the low pressure pump inlet from high pressure pump outlet, so that there is no chance of leakage of fluid from higher pressure area to lower pressure area. The major use of this type of pump occurs when through shaft is necessary, as in the automatic transmission. So basically in all types of automobiles, even two-wheelers, in four-wheelers, and even in the more number of heavy duty vehicles, internal gear pumps, they are usually used for pumping the oil and supplying lubricating oil to all parts of automobile and so on. So if you see the working of this internal gear pump, oil will enter from this side. So due to the partial vacuum which is being created because of rotation of these teeth or gears, the air which is present in these packets. Now if you see the packets, this is the packet and this is the packet. This is the packets created by internal gear and crescent seal, and these are the packets which are created by external gear and crescent seal. So air will be trapped in these packets, in all these packets, and air will be removed from this inlet to outlet. Once the air is removed, vacuum will be created, and the unmeshing of teeth of these gears will start the pumping. So liquid will be carried out through these packets, through all these packets and even these packets, and it will be delivered to the outlet. And if you see that the space between, or we can say the space between internally and externally cut gears, it is very less. So there is no chance that liquid which is being delivered to the outlet will leak back from this portion to the inlet. So as I already said, oil will be carried out through these spaces or through these packets, and from this it will be delivered, and at this particular point it will be constant. This shows that constant meshing of gear will deliver the discharge to the outlet. So when gear unmeshes, the pumping will, the oil will be sucked, and when they meshes, at that point it will be delivered to the outlet. And you can see this higher pressure area and low pressure area. So this is low pressure area from this point to this point, and from this point higher pressure area starts. So where teeth they unmesh, at that point the pumping starts, and that area is considered as low pressure area. Where they unmesh, at that point it's the high pressure area starts. So this is the animation. You can see that liquid is carried through these packets. These packets created by internal gear and external gear, and then when it unmeshes, that point it will be delivered to the tank. When the meshing starts, the pumping starts. When it unmeshes, then the liquid will be pumped out, or it will be delivered to the outlet. Then this is the G rotor pump. The difference between, this is also internal gear pump, type of internal gear pump, but there is no crescent seal because the teeth and two gears, they are mounted in such fashion that number of teeth of external gear, let us measure number of teeth of external gear and internal gear here. So if you consider external gear, teeth number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and if you consider internal gear, teeth number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So if you measure number of teeth for external internal gear, then total number of teeth for external gear will be equal to total number of teeth of internal gear plus 1. So the G rotor pump has one tooth less than outer internal idler gear. That is why this is called as G rotor pump. So because of this fashion, like since one tooth is less, the eccentricity is not there, because here you can see the eccentricity was there. Here eccentricity is eliminated, and since one tooth is less in the internal gear, automatically the space between addendum of the internal gear and addendum of external gear will be trapped, and there is no space available between these two. So there is no need of even crescent seal. So automatically the pockets will be created because of this fashion, and liquid will be supplied where the gears meshes, and the liquid will be supplied where gears are unmeshes. So this is the G rotor pump. You can see the animation over here. So you can see the animation of G rotor pump. Here there is no space available between addendum of internal gear and addendum of external gear, and thus there is no need of crescent seal. The gears, they are arranged in such fashion that there is no space available between two profiles of two teeth of gears. So these pumping chambers, they are created in such fashion that the adjacent pair of teeth, which are constantly in contact with the outer element, expect the clearance. So this can be considered as the clearance. So chamber reaches its maximum size when female tooth of the outer rotor reaches top dead center, and during the second half of revolution the spaces collapse, displacing the fluid from outlet port formed at the side of plate. So the geometrical volume of the rotor pump can be calculated as considering the tooth height, the number of outer teeth, the maximum area between male and female gears, that it unmeshed occurs at inlet, and the minimum area between male and female gear where it meshes, which occurs at outlet. So this is how it is shown that the maximum we can say the contact area between male and female gear, which is there in the half revolution of the rotating shaft, and the minimum area which is available between the male and female gear is shown here, which happens to be occur at this part where the half part of the revolution of shaft. So this is how where the pumping chambers created with the maximum area, the liquid will be carried out, and it will be delivered where the area becomes less, or it becomes smaller. So this was the end of the introduction to pumps. All the best for your end-sem examination. See you in the next semester. Thank you.